let's talk about Gold Butte National Conservation Area status. You kind of pushed that issue to appear on the council agenda.
I did.
Did not exactly go the way you personally or professionally or politically wanted it to.
That's
Pick
life.
one of those peas.
That's life, yeah, it is.
Pick one of those peas. So what are your thoughts about that issue going forward from here? Just recently, there was some legislation introduced in Congress that designated a lot of land, a few 100,000 acres of land down in Vegas. Number one was Tule Springs,
Right.
Dinosaur Monument or National Monument, whatever. Talk about Gold Butte and what that issue means to you and what you would like to see happen.
I'm a believer that more local control is always better. I mean, there's a lot of groups that go out there and do a lot of good. The challenge that I have with what's proposed is just as you mentioned, they continue to bring more land to come under this umbrella of the NCA or wilderness or whatever you want to tag it as. That's one concern, is that we establish an NCA, and it, pretty soon we're going to have everything out there is going to be under that guise, whether it's NCA, wilderness, whatever. The other challenge is I would like to see that the Bunkerville Mountains, it doesn't start till it truly ought to start where Gold Butte really is, out at Whitney Pockets, and go that way. When we got elected, the mayor and I sat down with it, and I let a certain individual pick the people to try to come to some kind of consensus, and we couldn't get anywhere. We couldn't get anywhere because, first of all, the amount of wilderness that is being proposed by the BLM is significantly less than certain other groups want. That's a number one concern, because
And that would be the environmental groups.
right.
Okay.
So, my thing is back to some local control. I think that those that are closer to it, Bunkerville, us, the other valley, I think we ought to have a little more say. The off-roaders, the tribe, there's groups that ought to have a little say in that. We're not always going to agree, but at least if we can preserve some of the things, and I'm about conservation, preservation, but I'm about utilization too. Last thing I want to see is that thing shut down. I mean, you can go out there now and there's roads that are shut down.
Mm-hmm.
And the real reason that I push that is because I just don't want somebody from back in Washington to come and tell us what's going to happen. I'd like us to be able to say, here's what we'd like to see happen. But we can never get anybody on the same page. And yeah, you're right. It didn't turn out the way I'd like it to. But
Are you willing to bring it back?
I can't. I lost.
Okay.
That's part of the game. I
Okay.
lost. I was on the losing side of that deal. So it would have to be,
Knowing you, that had to hurt.
nobody likes to lose.
Okay, there is a group in town who have some pretty significant ideas about making this more of an ATV, off-roader, four-wheeler, whatever your moniker you want to use, mecca. And that would significantly generate more economic activity, not development, activity in Mesquite and the area than perhaps designating it a wilderness, and basically your clientele is going to be hikers. So what do you think? You grew up in this area. That's your backyard. What do you think about that, juxtapositioning those two interests in terms of economic activity?
Well, one of the things if they're going to go forward with the NCA or whatever that I talked about is if we're truly looking for that NCA to really bring in economic positive indication of more tourism and more generation of revenue to Mesquite and those type of things, then we need to talk about putting a boat ramp out here so we can go down on this side.
I did the mayor last Friday. I'm just kidding. He brought up the same
So,
same idea.
So I guess the question I have is, are we truly concerned about having an economic positive to Mesquite, or are we just want to get a designation? Because right now the ACEC will handle a lot of the things that's going on. But back to the four-wheelers and the trails, that's becoming a big recreational retired. There's a lot of individuals that want to go travel and see things that really they can only get there on a four-wheeler ATV. There's loops that can tie in through the Strip in Arizona and back into Utah. But if we continue on the path of wilderness, those things won't happen, and that'll have a detrimental impact on. We have a local business here that sells quite a few of those.
Mm-hmm.
They do a lot of off-roading and sponsor groups and trips and things like that. They go out through the country, and yeah, I've been out there. I've chased cows. I've hunted out there. I do a lot of things. Once again, I want to conserve it. I want to preserve it, but I want to use it. Conservation, preservation, utilization. I think that we can have those things, but the more wilderness and some of those issues that are being pushed to benefit, bigger cities and that with their mitigation purposes and those kind of things, we're going to be the one that gets the short end of the stick.
Well, there is an individual in town, Doug Reef, who presented an idea a couple weeks ago to me to create ATV trails through the city where an individual could potentially get on the ATV at his house and make a complete trek through all of the Gold Butte area up into the Arizona Strip. A couple years ago, the city kind of shut down a whole lot of streets against ATVs, so it's almost as though they were acting against that idea.
Well, and there are some, with Riverside Road, I think there's some state statutes that prohibit some of that. I agree. I think we need to allow where we can. I mean, we don't want them going down Mesquite Boulevard, head on to traffic, those kind of things. I mean, we have to be a little bit sensible, but that is an issue that we need to address where we can. And I think the PD's been pretty reasonable about allowing people to travel and cross streets that they need to get to their destinations, to go out and visit some of those places. I think they've been pretty lenient on that. Still trying to keep the safety issues in that, but that is something I think we could address better to allow those kind of things to happen. Be good for business.
Probably the last question here, I think. Almost the last question. You sit on the RTC board. You've just had a great time the last year with that assignment. They're reworking the contract for the bus service down in Vegas. I'm not so much interested in the bus service in Vegas as much as I'm interested in how that contract may affect Mesquite. We get a significant amount of dollars from RTC for our roads, our construction, our maintenance, new trails. So talk a little bit about the RTC and some potential problems there or some potential gain. What kind of projects do we have on the horizon that RTC may be planning for us?
Well, I do sit on RTC. I sit on Regional Flood. Great organizations. When I got involved with RTC, it was in the middle of the 4-4 vote that was pretty contentious. We have worked through that. I think the proposals actually go out today. They were split. The concern that I had was just as you mentioned, is what effect is going to have on the ridership or the transportation issues out here in Mesquite with transporting people.
Right.
And it was going to be critical. That's when we got together and took a bus down there, and Mesquite was heard. My colleagues realized that there's concern, and I appreciate the citizens that went, took the time to go down. It was beneficial because they were heard, and I think it helped to go forward with the way this contract went forward now. Until we see what the pricing comes back with, and then how the contracts go, I would hope that there would be no more detrimental loss in revenue and routes out here. My colleagues are committed to make sure that we're taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm happy about the way those things turned out. I mean, it was it wasn't a pleasant process with the way it went, but I think that we had a unanimous vote as it went forward this time, and I would hope that everybody will uphold that and not try to do something that, when we get to the end of finalizing the process and going forward. Revenues are up, so hopefully if we can keep that trend, I don't see that the Mesquite's going to be impacted with the Silver Rider and those things that provide the transportation. And
Well, you mentioned the Regional Flood Commission that you also are a member of. I just got a picture yesterday submitted to me. I don't think we have to worry about too much flooding this summer on the river, but what are, we get these 100-year floods every 5 years. What kind of projects are going on now with the regional flood? What's in the works? What's in the future for some flood mitigation along the Virgin River, specifically the east side?
well, and just for information, through the regional flood and RTC, Mesquite has we've been fortunate to receive a lot of financing to align washes, roads from RTC, those kind of things. They've taken care of us. On the 10-year plan, it is on the 10-year plan to reinforce, whether it's concrete or stone, like up in Washington County, the river, to help to mitigate those flooding issues and widen the river and channel it the way it needs to be. And that is on the 10-year plan that we've approved going forward. It gets back to money, but it is on the horizon. They're aware of those issues and know that it's a concern.
Mm-hmm.
With the levee that was built with the last flood, we've talked to BLM to try to do some agreements and things maybe where we get control of that. Those things are still being worked out, where that will stay in place until the permanent fix can really come. But from my perspective, if that stays in place, I think we can pretty well eliminate the flooding that'll take place if we have another one of those 100-year floods in the next 5 years, which could happen.
Yeah, very well could. So what are your goals for the next year? Did I already ask you that?
I don't know.
I can't remember.
But as far as goals, of course, always the financial situation is a concern. We want to make sure that we continue to not deficit spend. We want to continue to maintain what we have in the city. We have, this is a great place. We have great people. Also would like to thank the businesses and the citizens that step up and volunteer. There's a tremendous amount of that goes on. For example, the 4th of July activities that just took place. I mean, you got to hand it to the Lee family and the Eureka and what they've done, and just great people. And it's a great activity. It brings a lot of community support and spirit for the whole day of activities. And we have those kind of people that step up all the time, and they need to be recognized. We need to continue that. And one of the focuses, as has been mentioned, is the process of how do we get business to Mesquite? How do we make it easier for them to come in? How do we mitigate some of the impacts financially that we can entice them to come here and let them know that we want them to be here, so that we can continue to have the growth that's consistent and steady.
Okay. All right. Well, Councilman Hafen, I appreciate your time. Great conversation. And we'll see you in a little while at the City Council meeting.
And we appreciate the information you put out there for the citizens of Mesquite. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.